Hi, my name is Tammy and welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to discuss Charm City, Episode 5, Adversary. So let's get into it. So adversary means one's opponent in contest, conflict, or dispute. So in this episode, we got to see everyone's opponent. We got to see everyone's adversary and what they are up against. Everyone is dealing or facing something. So the episode opens with Charm. She's waking up out of a bad dream. Although we don't know what the dream is about, we do know from episode 1 that Charm is dealing with some trauma as it relates to the passing of her father. So the bad dream that she was having could be related or not, but we do know we see Charm inside of the dream. She's in a panic state. She's very emotional, and we see emergency lights going on. So that's one adversary or one thing that Charm is facing. And another thing that Charm is dealing with, if you watch episode 1, Charm and her mother did lose their home. So just trying to secure housing for herself and her mother, that's a very pressing issue in Charm's life right now. But on the flip side of that, Charm did meet with Beverly, and as we see, Beverly praised Charm's performance in the marketing event in the prior episode, and she even gifted Charm with a $1,000 gift card. So on the one hand, Charm does have an adversary. She's dealing with trauma. She's dealing with her life pretty much being shaken up and just trying to secure stability again, but she is doing very well in this internship. Now moving along to Raven's story in this episode. Now we really got to see what I consider the tragic relationship between Raven and Beverly. For some reason, Raven really wants to not only do well for herself and get a raise and kind of come up. I get a sense that she really does want to impress Beverly. And I get a sense that her and Beverly have some kind of mother-daughter, I'm not good enough for you type of relationship. And I think it really weighs heavily on Raven. So in this episode, we see Beverly bring Raven into the office to recap the marketing event. And Beverly is pretty much asking about the girls, and she's pretty much reviewing everyone's performance. But Raven also finds a way to insert herself in her performance, and she finds a way to once again bring up this raise. Now, the unfortunate part is that Raven politicking for herself to get this raise, Beverly did note that there were some mistakes made that Raven should have not, if not owned up to, that Raven should have mentioned. So this causes, once again, a rift between Beverly and Raven, and it kind of just shows their relationship. They're in a state of tug of war all the time. It's kind of good, then it's bad, it's kind of nice, and it's kind of nasty. But we can really see that Raven really does want a career, but she just cannot quite seem to get there. Now moving along to Blasi. Now I will say Blasi's scenes really got me. I was really engulfed in Blasi and what she had going on. Prior up to now, we know that Blasi's had a big issue with her father's new fiance, with her father taking away all of her privileges and all of her wealth. And up to now, we've seen Blasi kind of handle it. She's had some ups and downs, but she's kind of been balancing it the best way that she can. But in this episode, we see Blasi really have a breakdown. We see her really get stripped down from her privilege to almost begging. And so we see the emotional toll that this situation with her father's fiance inserting herself in their family and taking away Blasi's riches one by one. We now see Blasi more vulnerable, more emotional. Blasi now knows that this is real. Your power and privilege has been taken away from you. So much to the point where her car has been taken. Father's fiance is now threatening the house. And with everything that she's already taken away from Blasi, Blasi can believe that the house will be next, and who knows what will be next. So I think it was a really nice scene to see Blasi humble herself and walk down to the restaurant, and we literally see Blasi begging for a job. I could hear the tremor in her voice. I can tell Blasi was scared, and I can tell that she had never been through anything like this before, or she never thought that she would ever go through anything like this before. It's one thing having wealth and having all the access to it, but it's another thing being wealthy and not having any access to it and not really having a full explanation as to why. Going from a huge bank account, a huge inheritance, to pretty much almost $0. And also Blasi's scenes in this episode were my favorite because we see Blasi have a full circle moment. In episode 1, we see Blasi not being able to pay for her meal at the restaurant because it's right then and there that she finds out that she has been cut off from her father and that her credit cards have all been stripped from her. The same restaurant that she had this dilemma in is the same restaurant that she is now begging for a job at. I think Blasi's story just goes to show one day you can have it and one day it can all be gone, to never take anything for granted. And I think Blasi's true adversary is not the dilemma with her father's fiance and her father cutting her off, but her true dilemma is finding out who she is without money, who she is without her father. Who has Blasi been all this time? And who will Blasi be now that she doesn't have access to all this wealth? Now moving along to Avery and her adversary. Now, ever since episode 1, the incident that took place in the strip club, I have been worried about Avery and her well-being and how she's going to get around this thing. We know what happened in episode 1. We know what Avery actually did in episode 1, the thing that she's been accused of when Strawberry, someone from the strip club, confronts her at her job at Emboldened Magazine. Here we see them in the parking lot and we see Avery's past catch up with her. I think with the incident that happened in the strip club, I think Avery wanted to justify it in some way. She wanted to put it behind her. It's not that she is lying about what happened in the strip club, because she has been accused of taking some money. I think she knows that that is a very greedy and dangerous world, and she has to be careful about if she is going to tell the truth and how she's going to tell the truth. But nevertheless, this past of hers and what she did is haunting her. And we see Strawberry yell out things and say stuff about, I've known you for a very long time. I know how you like to get money. This is not going to last. We see her trying to insert doubt into Avery's mind. And we kind of get a sense that maybe Avery at one point had been in a bad cycle where she was trying to flee from bad circumstances or things that no longer served her, and at some points she was pulled back in. We see Avery mentally trying to remove herself from the strip club and everything that went along with it. And I think Avery's biggest adversary is pretty much just owning up to the truth and just facing it head on. I think she's done a good job of running away and trying to block it out and not really address it, but as we see, although she's not addressing it, it has addressed her and it has caught up with her. And I think she knows that this has to be handled in one way or another, or this will not end well. So as we see, everyone in this episode has a dilemma. Everyone in this episode has an adversary, even down to the very ending scene, even down to Beverly. We do see that Beverly received a note from an anonymous sender. So we definitely can see trouble brewing there. And as hard as Beverly portrays herself and as stiff and as cold as Beverly can be, we see that she too has a crack in the foundation and that she's also running from something. So this episode is a metaphor, once again, for life and what we go through. There's always something going on, and everyone has an adversary in a way, something that you are running from or scared to run towards. And in this episode, we just get to see how these girls are all related. They all needed this job for big reasons. Even though Charm, Raven, Blasi, and Avery are all different in their personalities, we see in this episode that they all have more in common than what they think. They're all going through something. There's always a big mountain to climb, and at the top of every mountain is the bottom of the next mountain. So it just comes to show, how do you deal with conflict? How do you deal with stress? How do you deal with dilemmas? On top of trying to get the job that will literally change your life. And I just want to make a mention of the ending scene. Charm is on the phone with her mother, and she's letting her mother know the good news that she did good at the marketing event, that she's in good graces with Beverly, and that she did get a $1,000 gift card. While Charm is on the phone with her mother, she sees that Raven is near her, who's in tears or visibly upset. And she calls out to Raven, and Raven walks off. It just kind of shows that although they are together at this internship, they are still living very individual lives, and they all have individual plights outside of the job. And in the very ending scene, we see a clip of Beverly individually asking the girls who is the best for the job. And we see all of them say that they are, including Raven. Even though she's not in the running for the internship, and even though she was not asked this question by Beverly, we still see that Raven has counted herself in. So today's question is, how do you all deal with the conflict? How do you all deal with your adversaries? Do you fight or flight? Do you go on autopilot, or do you problem solve? The reason I ask this question is because I think for me, the most exciting thing about watching and making this series is to see how each and every one of these characters not only deal with their issues and conflicts, but also how they overcome them. And at this point, I also want to ask, are you Team Avery, Team Charm, Team Blasi, or Team Raven? Please leave your thoughts and comments below in the comments section. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all in episode 6.